But why it's so fun.
All right, so I am so excited to finally be able to welcome my best friend, Dr. Brooke Goldner, to be able to answer questions for you about healing. We've been friends since seventh grade, and we both had some pretty interesting adventures since seventh grade.
Oh yeah.
Very different paths that kind of led us to the helping field. So I'm really excited to be able to share this with all of you. So please ask questions if you're watching this on a recorded form. We'll go back and answer whatever questions that you have, but I'm just really excited to be able to do this. And I'm glad it's finally working, that we can actually do this Facebook Live.
Now I'm wondering, should we go back to the place it was supposed to be now that we have a solution?
We try that?
Wait, there's two people now. So.
Well, all right. So we're good here.
We're just going to make this work. Oh, it's so awesome to get to do this for you. It was so funny the other night where I was just sitting in bed, just getting down to my book, and I went, it'd be really cool to do an interview with Stephanie. And then in that moment, you texted me, do you want to do an interview? I'm like, shut up. You did not just do that right now. Like, even though I'm in Texas and you're in New York, there's these like waves that we send to each other. It's the coolest thing. If you guys have best friends like that just think, like you just think at the same time and it sends like a pulse through the universe, you receive it. We don't even need to pay for cell phones.
We were like, did I think it first or did you think?
That's what I said. Who infected who? Hi, Tammy.
Hi, everybody. All right. So I guess we'll start off by maybe sharing your background story and what it is you do. And then I'm thinking what I'd like to do is just kind of talk about what it was like for you dealing with me when I was in my codependency, and then
sure,
go from there. So I'm sure everyone's going to love your story.
So you want me to give my story?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
All right. Well, I'll give you the short version of my story. So I'm a medical doctor. I'm board certified as a psychiatrist and neurologist, but practice psychiatry and disease reversal, actually. Went into psychiatry because in medical school, I realized that the biggest impact on people's health was actually their mental health. That people who had really serious diseases seemed to recover faster if they were happy and surrounded by love and family. And people who had something like an infection could be in the hospital for weeks or months, incurable if they had depression. And so I decided instead of going to rheumatology, I go into psychiatry because for myself, as Steph knows really well, I've been sick. I was a patient for way before I ever became a doctor. I got lupus at 16, kidney failure, arthritis, migraines. You were there the night that I went to the hospital and got diagnosed because I was vomiting. We were at the pool all day and I was vomiting with the migraine and I got the rash across my face. And so I have been a patient for much of my life and just learned how to deal with it. Through high school, I had to have 2 years of chemotherapy to save my kidneys. And in medical school, I had mini strokes because of the lupus, sending blood clots into my brain. That was just kind of life for me, was if I can just do everything it takes to pursue my purpose and my passion and my happiness, then lupus is just a thing I have to deal with. So I believe that we should never let our hurdles or our obstacles become our life, because then it steals everything. Mm-hmm. So I've always just been very focused and passionate about helping people, because I figured if I could use whatever time I had on this planet, and being diagnosed with lupus at 16, I wasn't, told that I had much of a long life ahead of me. I couldn't have children. I'd probably be handicapped by my 40s. So I figured I'm just going to spend whatever life I have just enjoying it, enjoying my friends, enjoying my family, and going after my purpose and my passion. And so right when I was graduating medical school, I was still sick. I was taking injections every day to stop the blood clots. And that's when I met my husband, who is just an incredible human being who wanted to marry someone who was sick. We fell in love very fast, and he, I had to tell him, listen, when he wanted to marry me, and I said, listen, I have this disease where I'm going to be handicapped. You're going to have to take care of me. I can never have your children. I'm not going to live a long life. We're 28. I don't know if this is what you want for your life. And, he said he'd rather have a short life with me than a lifetime with anyone else, and he was going to make it the best damn life I could have. And he has. It's been 13 years. He is a dream. And my husband and I teach relationships. We have an incredible, supportive, and beautiful relationship. But what was even more amazing was that by opening myself up to this, and him as well, it took courage for him to make that choice. Mm-hmm. He's a very handsome, intelligent, incredible person, he didn't have to choose, you know, a sick person as his wife. And so and for him too, I mean, my husband's best friend died when they were in their 20s from testicular cancer. I don't know if you know that, because LaFura's picture was at our wedding. And for him, it was like, I finally met my best friend. I told him about, you know, my disease. He just was like, well, we're going to get married anyway. And that was it. But talking to him later, he had to, you know, tell me about that, how that's how it felt. Like, finally, my soul is connected with another person, and I'm going to lose her. So it took a lot of courage, but we both never stayed, you know, and to my happiness and my passion for medicine, and if anyone was slowing me down or hurting me, then it was like, I'd rather just hang out with my friends. So I waited for him. And so by waiting for him, all these miraculous things happened to me. So it turns out my husband is a celebrity trainer. He trains Oprah's trainer. When I met him, he was training people for MTV. And so I wanted to get put on his program so I could look hot at my wedding, as I'm just as vain as anybody else. And the wedding is like the best time to get motivated to exercise, right? So I was like, I want to get fit. But he had a rapid metabolism nutrition plan, and he wanted to put me on that so that I could get what I wanted. He told me I was perfect as I was. He was, you know, he didn't want to fall in a trap. But I said, no, I want to get ripped for the wedding. And so his nutrition plan, though, was super high in veggies and omega-3s and water, but it also had meat in it. And Steph and I have been vegetarians since we were kids. I'm an animal lover. I didn't want to eat my friends. Although I was actually a cheesetarian, really. I was like a cheese and eggetarian, because I didn't realize the cruelty in those industries at the time. I didn't know. I grew up in the East Coast where vegetarians were weird enough, you know. So anyway, he had to change his program for me, and I went on a completely plant-based version of it. So I got rid of my eggs and cheese. He took the meat out, and I ate tons of vegetables and omega-3s and water and all that stuff. I worked out every day, and I went from a size 11 to a size 3 in 3 months, ripped, and my lupus disappeared. And my labs were negative for the first time in my life. Now, I had just graduated medical school, so I knew that was impossible, but we couldn't explain the fact that we were like, did love heal me? I'm like, but I was in love with you 6 months ago, and I still had lupus. So the only thing I'd done was change my diet. And I just kept eating that way. I didn't understand what happened, but my life was so good. I just kept doing what I was doing. And years passed, and I stayed healthy. I went off all my medicines. I stayed healthy. 4 years later, I decided to do something everyone thought was crazy. I decided to have my first son.
I remember so scared. We were like, oh no, I hope that like this is okay.
Well, the doctor said it would bring the lupus back and kill me. And Tom's like, really? Do we need to do that? Because I kind of like that everything's okay. And I said, I feel it. I mean, I've been healthy for 4 years. I have no lupus. I want to do this. Steph volunteered to carry the baby for me. So did my mom. And Tom's joke was, you know, Stephanie's very attractive, but I just can't do that. And I'm like, no, you do it in the hospital. Not like that. Not like that. But anyway, but I did it and had a healthy baby and healthy pregnancy. And so that's when we realized the lupus was gone. And so we went and reverse engineered what we did and how nutrition can actually affect your cellular recovery. And I learned what I didn't learn in medical school, that nutrition is more powerful in healing disease than medicines are. So that's what I've been doing since then. So I spent about the last decade helping people reverse lupus, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, Sjogren's, and I do it completely with supermarket foods. And I've been able to give the second chance at life back to other people that I was able to get for myself. So that's the majority of what I do every day, and I do everything through the internet because I see people. I just got off the phone with someone from Bulgaria right before I got on this interview. So Bulgaria, Switzerland, Iran, UK, Australia, India. So everyone I see is kind of like how you see me now, through the computer. And I help people all over the world, and it's just the greatest thing in the world. As you know, Steph, the greatest thing you can ever do is use your pain to help others, right? And so I'm in just bliss every day getting to do that.
I do, and that's, you know, and I talk about that when I do this too, is that I love being able to go on and being able to help other people and watch them grow and change. And in the coaching groups and being able to see that aha moment where they've like flipped a switch and they're like, oh, I suddenly get it. It makes me happy to see that happen.
Yeah, well, I always tell my patients, I do practice some psychiatry still, although mostly I do disease reversal. And I always tell people disease reversal is psychiatry, because telling people to eat differently, I use all my psych Jedi skills, because Food is very emotional for people. It's very hard. But I always tell people that your greatest pain will become your gift. But first you have to conquer it. First you have to work through it, right? So whether it's abusive relationships or it's disease, you have to conquer it. You have to go through, you have to go towards your passion. You got to let go of the things that hurt you. And then on the other side, that's where your gift is. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's actually a perfect segue. So,
Well, thank you.
Brooke and I have been friends for a long time. And, I just never had healthy relationships. And, I just remember Brooke telling me to the effect of, you can have a healthy relationship. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's for people like you. Like her parents had healthy relationships. She was used to that. She was going to be the lucky one that could have healthy relationships. And I was not going to be that person. And as I was going through it, there were times in all of our friendship where I would start to she would stop hearing from me. And
I hated that.
Yes. And I was doing that because I was embarrassed because I knew that things were not good for me. And I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want to hear it. So I would just kind of disappear. And the more she'd push, I'd almost be like, maybe she'll stop. Maybe she'll just stop bothering. But of course, your best friend doesn't do that. So she kept pushing. So what was it like for you when I was going through all that time?
Oh, when you were ghosting me.
Yeah.
It was really rough. I love you like a sister. I mean, you are my sister. I'm an only child outside of you. And sometimes I think your soul sister can be closer. I mean, I don't have blood ones, so I can't say for sure. But yeah, it would be weird because there'd be times where we'd talk all the time, like we do now. And then there'd be like months where sometimes you'd go away. And it was hard because when we would talk, you were always honest. That's for one thing. I don't think you told me the whole truth, but you would tell me things were bad. I know you didn't tell me the whole truth because I read your book and I was like, what the hell is this bullshit she didn't tell me? But, because I know, and I understand it, because even with what you tell me, I'd be like, this isn't healthy and you deserve better than this. And you got to let him go. And, we would spend like an hour straight on the phone and then I wouldn't hear from you for like a month after that. You're like, that's enough. But it's really hard because, I love you so much. And you are one of the most amazing people I know. You've got an enormous heart, and you take care of people so well. Like, this woman's friends are always amazing. You are always good at picking friends. I'm not just talking about myself, but in general. You're really good at picking friends. Your friends are always like super supportive and loving. And then your boyfriends were like, they were good at first and then they turned into mean. And you deserve so much better than that. And it used to hurt me inside. I used to tell you when we were kids, I told her if only we could be lesbians, we could marry each other because like we love each other so much and I would take good care of her. But I just don't, we just aren't built that way. Some people, I think it's, you're born that way or you're not, right? But it was like, I just wanted someone to love you the way I love you. And I wanted someone to take amazing care of you. And when you didn't let people take care of you, where you let people hurt you, oh, it hurt me so much. Now I'm going to cry. I know you are. It was like I couldn't protect you from that. And sometimes I'm like, God, was I being too hard on her? Like I want her to choose better, but I just, but she has to make her choice. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts a lot. It's kind of like if, you walk by and you saw someone, kicking a puppy, you want to save the puppy, but it's that guy's puppy, and you're like, if you were a puppy, I would have just knocked the guy out, but you had to do it yourself, But it was hard. The hardest part for me, I think, was really when you were married to your ex and he started trying to get between us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was, I'm like a super laid back person. Someone asked me today, about like between Tom and yourself, who's the one who's going to get angry at something? And I'm like, I never get angry. I'm like super chill, right? And like, he'll get mad and I'll get hurt. That's usually how it goes. I'm one of those people like, I'll cry, I won't get mad. But when he was able to get me mad, and that was something that felt very uncomfortable for me because I'm not used to feeling that way. And on the work I've done for myself, I realized my triggers for anger. So I learned this really cool stuff called heart virtue. Greg and Tamara Montana teach us. It's the coolest thing. And what the heart virtue is that you have something you stand for in your life. And what you stand for is violated. That's what makes you angry. And what I found out my heart virtue is protecting the innocent. So for me, if I see whether it's animals or people who are innocent or vulnerable being hurt, that's what makes me angry. So that was like, because he would say stuff like he would try to pick fights with me online. over nothing, like over what I ate, or he would call me names or tell me that I was entitled and I thought I was better than him. And I'm like, what is this coming from? Like, I didn't do anything. And then I remember I unfriended him on Facebook, and then he started messaging me on my business page going, haha, I found you. You can't block me now. And I'm like, is he a grown up? Like, what is happening right now? And even as a psychiatrist, my logical mind is saying, he's trying to create distance between us because he knows that I could be an influence of splitting them up. But I couldn't even, that voice was becoming like Charlie Brown's teacher, because I'm like, screw you, man. Yeah. And my husband's going, what's wrong with you? I never see you act this way. I never see you this mad. And I'm like, I don't know, but I hate him. I'm so mad.
And you as a psychiatrist and me who was in it, and that's what would make me crazy, is the stuff that would happen, because I would know it was crazy, but then he would turn it around later on and make it feel like I was the one who was being crazy. And then you're like questioning your own sanity. Like, wait a minute, this person that loves me and that's supposed to be, you know, my best friend and everything else, he's telling me that I messed up and I'm doing the wrong thing. Am I? Did that even really happen the way I thought it did? So it just starts to really make you question everything, and you feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah, it was really like, for me, it was more like, I wish that we were in the same city, because I would go over there right now. Like, at the time I was in California and you're in New York, but I'm like, why is he harassing me over Facebook? Like, I didn't even know where the fight came from. So he must have been mad about something else. And then for some reason, like, I posted a picture of my salad, and next thing you know, he's like, you think you're so great because you eat salad and you have a hybrid car and you think you're better than everyone. And I'm like, whoa, what? I didn't say that. I just said, look how nice my salad looks.
And security, I think that, you know, for obviously you heard Brooke talk about her husband, and, you know, they're in love and they're best friends and all those things. And I would say to my ex, you know, I really would like there to be better communication, and so that there's not yelling and screaming and the police being called and threats. And, you know, he would get physically violent and push me and spit on me and curse at me. I mean, being called a bitch, cunt, and whore was a regular thing in my house. And those were all things that were normal. And when I would say to him that I didn't want to be spoken to that way, he would say that I didn't know any better, that other people spoke to each other that way, and that I was living in lollipops and rainbows. And so here is someone who was living proof that you could actually speak to someone in a positive way and be best friends with someone, and that messed with him. So he was trying to make an issue with you and I, so that way he could prove, well, like, see, she gets mad too. And he would do that with me. He would push my buttons and then say, see, you lose your temper, you get mad.
He has a unique skill of pissing people off who are normally happy, nice people. Yeah. But I mean, but that's his pathology, right? Is to push everyone else away. And that's what happens in abusive relationships, is if I can make fights with all your friends and they don't want to be around us, even if it's him that you don't want to be around, right? Because I'm sure that happened for you, right? Like, I mean, even my husband would say, like, Stephanie's welcome anytime, but I really don't like that guy. But like, how can you do that? Because you're going to invite someone who's married and not with her husband, right? So I think it only makes, it works for him, whether it's distancing us from each other or just saying, well, if you don't like me, you're not going to come over either. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, that's part of it, is just creating that difficulty and that friction to try to push us apart. And I agree. I definitely felt the insecurity because I never mentioned what I had, but he came to visit. So I guess he took an inventory.
Yeah. Yeah.
To throw it back in my face. Did you have that, other people who you normally hung out with who stopped coming over?
Well, what started to really happen for me is that it wasn't necessarily that, I just stopped talking about it. So, because I could hear myself talking about how terrible things were, and I would say, this is ridiculous. I don't want to talk about it anymore, because I knew that I should be leaving. But I was so afraid, and it made it so that, you know, when you hear often enough that you aren't good enough, who would want you? Think of how old you are. You know, you don't look so great anymore for your age. You know, I was 33, and I was 34 when we got.
You still look sexy as hell.
Thanks. But like all things, but you know, and again, and I'm 41 now, but back at the, like, age was such a big thing. I felt like I was sold. I was missing my chance. And even, I know, you know, this is something for a lot of people. I was afraid that I was missing my chance and having a family. And Brooke was like, don't even think about having, because the doctors had said, you're not going to be able to have children. You have polycystic ovarian syndrome. You're not going to be able to have kids. If you want to, you got to hurry up and do it now. And I was like, I really don't think that I want to have a child with this man. And thank God the universe did not allow that to happen. But, you know, I thought I was missing out on my window of opportunity to have a child, but I thought I'd rather have no children than have a child with him, because I did not want him to be the father to my child.
Yeah. But then again, you think about it. So someone that was not good enough to raise a child, but was good enough to be your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hate that.
And I thought I could handle it. I thought that, you know, because, and for those of you who are watching, I mean, you know, cover those codependent family behaviors. And my father, I love and is one of my idols, he had a temper growing up, and Brooke saw, you know, was there for some of my family issues too. So
Oh, I saw it.
definitely attest to that stuff. But my father was always, I would understand A plus B equals C with him. So I knew what was coming. My mom was not necessarily that way. And she was just a little bit, she was more emotional. And so, but my father, he had that temper. And so when my ex had that temper, I would say, okay, well, but that temper still means that he loves me. There's still other stuff. I can deal with that. And there was that piece that said, I can deal with it. I wanted to protect others from that, which is strange, but I thought I could handle it. And if you hear over and over again, and you think, you internalize that everyone has stuff to deal with, it's just whose shit you're going to put up with. Right. And that's what I would hear from my friends would say that. So I was like,
except me.
You. And then I'd be like, well, she doesn't, she's
just with the rainbow land. She's over there.
Yeah, exactly. That's not.
Well, it's interesting because when you say, why is it that you were okay with protecting other people? Because that's what you always did. You were the oldest sister. And in your house, I remember, because I would come over and we'd be planning to go to a movie. And then your mom would say, well, your sisters didn't finish their chores, so you have to do their chores or you can't go to the movie. So it was always that thing of like, you were responsible for everyone all the time. Yep. Like, it wasn't like they got to all get the same thing. You were responsible. And I think you took that role of, well, I can also then protect them, take care of them. You were like a surrogate mom. You were the steady, loving mom that they could lean on that wasn't going to be temperamental. So I think you just extended that. And I remember when we were talking before you wrote your book, and, you know, you had to go through the whole depression first. You know, I cried with relief when you told me that you got depressed, which sounds weird, okay, as a shrink, but I had so many patients that have had similar journeys where they have held up their significant other emotionally and been the strong one. And I had one recently where I told her, I'm like, you need to have a breakdown. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're my shrink. You're supposed to keep me up. I said, no, you've been trying to be strong your whole life, and it's a lie. So you've got to feel all those feelings that you've been blocking. And once you've cleared them, then you're going to feel happy. But they're just all inside. And so when you finally let yourself feel, because you are so good at self-care, right? So like, you're like, okay, it's really bad at home, so I'll work out more. I'll hang out with my girlfriends more. And I'll just like shove that down, shove that down, shove that down. And the reason people change their life is because they're in pain, right? We don't change when we're happy. When I'm happy, like if you see me on a cruise ship and I've got a pina colada and a nice book in my hand, try to get me to get out of the chair. You know, my husband be like, "There's a great nature talk going on." I'm like, "Have fun, baby." You know, I'm not gonna change when I'm happy, right? But when you're in pain, that's when you get motivated, right? If you put your hand on a hot stove, you're motivated to move it. So what I always felt was that you never let yourself feel the pain long enough to be motivated to change it, because you're like, this hurts, so I'm going to go do something to let off steam, which is great when you're a kid, because as a kid you can't leave your house, so you have to find a way. So coping is great. But in a relationship that's a loving relationship, you don't want to cope your way through something bad. If it's bad, you got to get out. So you have to feel the pain. So when you finally like felt the depression, I was like, there it is, it's all there. And I wanted you to get better, of course, but I was like, she's finally feeling all of the stuff. And that's when the change happened, right? Was you went through that, and then you started taking great care of yourself and getting your coaching and your therapy and doing your immersion tanks and all that stuff you're doing. And then now look at you. I mean, you glow with happiness now.
Oh,
so, yeah. And I don't know how many people here do that, but a lot of people I see who are in toxic relationships, they're just really good at smushing down the negative feelings and just searching for what's good. They're like, oh, he brought me a flower today. I'll just forget that he, told me that I can't ever wear black because I don't look good in it and I shouldn't talk so much and da-da-da-da-da. And they just shove that down,
Well, and the fear. And, the fear that I felt of, and for me, the fears were, I'm too old. I'm not good enough. My self-esteem was definitely on the low. The fear that healthy relationships just weren't possible, that they just weren't real. the fear of being alone. Those were all things. And then the fear of even just change. I was, I've owned my house for 19 years. 20 years. I bought my house when I was 21 years old. I was in a car.
I remember, it was amazing.
Yeah. I took that money, I put it and bought a house. Well, for some reason, even though I was the one who had the money, I was afraid of even not being able to pay my bills for my house. So that was a fear. And so all these different fears were keeping me in this trapped place, and then that discomfort of pushing through it. And I think that was the biggest thing is just like you said, that pain. I was like, oh, it hurts. Okay, let's do something else and ignore it and try to figure something else to make it feel better. And you're right. I was in the best shape of my life.
You're ripped.
I was ripped. I was going like 6 days a week, like an hour and a half, 2 hours every single time. Just like,
yeah, you get a good dopamine rush from working out. It's great. I always tell people it truly is the best antidepressant, but most people don't use it. But sometimes you have to let yourself feel the pain to say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to feel this. I always tell people you should be as happy to see your significant other as you are to see your dog, Like you should come home. I think I told you that many times. You should come home like, oh my God, it's you. I wake up every day like that. I roll over and I see the cutest face I've ever seen. I'm like, it's you. And he goes, it's you. Like, and it's been 13 years and we're just as excited every day because it's like, oh, it's my best friend with benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and now it's funny you say that because I had a dog. I've had dogs my whole life. My dog passed away a year and a half ago. I haven't gotten a new dog since. But my husband said when she passed away, he said, well, until we figure it out, because we do a lot of traveling and stuff,
right.
I'll just, every time, if I'm home, when you come home, I'll wag my tail and be just as excited to see you. So he does that. David will greet me at the door. And
I love it.
So I get the little dance every time. So I get that. And, and I think all the time when I see that, or when we're having family dance party, or, we're staying up till 2:00 in the morning, just chatting about life, or, yes. He's getting cranky and I call him out and we joke around about it. Or, these little things that are just so amazing. And I think about how, had I not made that decision to leave and feel that pain and go through that discomfort, I wouldn't get to experience all of this. And I wouldn't get, and every time I think about it, it just makes me so sad because I think about all those people who are stuck there and they know that it's uncomfortable. They know that they don't want to keep living that. But taking that step forward is what's so scary. And I don't know how else to say, like, if you push through it and you get to the other side, you get to have all this good stuff.
You have to go through. There's no around. There's no over. It's through. Yeah. It is. And it's hard. It's really hard. But that's when you know yourself. That's when you find out what you're made of. I have someone that I'm seeing for therapy right now who's in her 20s. She's going to law school. She's beautiful. She's smart. I love her. Maybe she's watching. But I always tell her to go into your group because her boyfriend is controlling. And I keep telling her, these are the signs. I said, and I don't want her to leave therapy. So I always say, you don't have to take any action on this. But because I care about you, I'm going to tell you that these are the signs of an abusive relationship, okay? He's left her places, like she was talking to his friend at a bar, so he left her there, right? So I know. Yeah. Told her she talks too much or she's too loud around her friends and all those just all that controlling stuff. And I keep telling her, this is him doing his best because you're not even married yet. Because they're talking about marriage. I said, this is his best, okay? And anytime she breaks it off, then he, gets better, until they get together again for a little bit of time. But when I talk about, why stay? And it's like, well, one, it's not a good time because I'm in law school and then I'd have to deal with a breakup and then, this and that. And her thought was like, I either have to be home or I have to get married and be with him. And I said, what about the other option? Like you go travel or live alone or, explore other things. And she just looked at me with surprise. Like she'd never thought about not being in some codependent relationship. And because her family's that way too. Her parents are moving and they want her to move with her. So she feels like she has to choose him or them. And went, or you go where you want to go. And she was just like, oh, well, I don't know. I never thought about that, right? So it's like, there's always people pulling at her. And I think a lot of times people end up in codependent relationships. It's like that they're used to somebody needing them. And maybe that's a weird thing too, that, well, who's going to need me and who am I if I'm not taking care of somebody, right? And if you put that energy into you, huh?
I've been trained that everybody has to be in a relationship to be worthwhile, that they're not important or special if they're not in a relationship. And that's why the word alone is so scary, where the amount of times that I remember sitting on that couch feeling alone with my ex, feeling like I couldn't talk to him because if I did, I had to walk on eggshells, that I couldn't be myself because he was going to jump down my throat or use it against me at some other point. I felt so alone. And the reason, and then the thought though of being not in a relationship was so scary too. You know, well, I'm going to be alone. And then what are people going to think of me? And that's definitely my upbringing. What are people going to think of me if I'm by myself? I must not be attractive enough. I must be doing something to make these guys, make these men turn bad. I thought it was like poison, like the poison apple, where it'd be like, here, have some of this. And then all of a sudden, bam.
The poisonous kiss.
Not true. They were already like that. They were just really good at hiding it until, and you know, I would say I'm as loyal as a dog. Once I had those feelings for someone, I would attach, and then they could do and say whatever, and I would make excuses and just hold on tight because I didn't want to let them go.
Yeah, that fear of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you can learn to like alone, then that's when it gets good. You know, when I teach people about relationships, I think one of the most powerful things to realize is you attract what you are, not what you want. Right? It's really where you attract what you are, not what you want. So if you're insecure, if you're scared, if you're feeling depressed or anxious or anything, then you're going to attract somebody else who is in that same boat, right? Someone else who's insecure or has issues or is attracted to someone who's insecure, because that says something too, right? They want someone they can control, and they see that insecurity and they're attracted to it. So the best thing you can do if you want an amazing relationship is put all your energy into yourself, right? That's what you did, right? Is you know, that's always what I did, was like, what do I love? You know, I love dancing. I love singing. I love being around people. I love, you know, the best thing I ever did was travel by myself. When I was finishing up medical school, I took rotations on the other side of the country by myself, went to Arizona and drove through the whole state singing Beyonce, Crazy in Love, like just so excited. It was just Beyonce and me and the desert singing, and I was so happy. I was just exploring, what do I like? What do I love? Where do I want to be? And when you get to that point, and you can, right? You have to put that energy in to figure out, what do I love and what do I like? Then you attract someone else who's attracted to someone powerful who loves themselves, right? Because people treat you the way you teach them to. So if you're like, hey, I'm a diva, goddess, queen, then the person who wants to be with me has got to really like that. And I don't want someone below me. I want someone, you know, my husband is a king himself, right? We're eye to eye. But that's what's going to happen. You'll still attract the insecure ones too, because the more powerful you are, the more people are going to notice you. But I think that is a scary thing for a lot of people. And I work with people, they'll say, that sounds selfish. I'm like, selfish is not a bad word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you know what you want in someone if you don't know who you are?
And that's exactly one of the things that, you know, that I teach so much in my groups, is to say, you have to really have that self-love, have that confidence, know who you are. And, you know, like I remember you saying, make a list and, you know, create the perfect person. And I say that all the time, is make that list, know who you're looking for, know who you are. And as you, like, in your mind, you might start creating a list. Like, I remember, you know, beforehand, I would think, like, I could deal with someone like my dad. I could do this, I could do that. And as I started dating and really looking within, I was like, no, I can't. I don't want those things. Those are not things that I want in a relationship, and I will not accept those things in a relationship. Yes. So I'd go out on a date with someone, and I'd see these little red flags, and I'd be like, nope, not again. Because I was in such a happy, healthy place that I loved being alone that much, that you had to be really awesome to come into my life and be a part of my life. And even now, and I said this to my husband the other day, and he was like, you're right. I said, you know, someone asked me about, you know, do you think that you guys are going to stay together, or if whatever. And I was like, you know what? I have no fear at all that he would never stray. And they were like, why? And I said, because I'm amazing. And
that's it. Own it.
And, you know, and he would be really dumb to not want to be with me. And, you know, I said that to him, and he's like, you're right. He's like, I would. He's like, I would never do that. I would never do that. And I said, I know. But I really, for people to understand that and to really feel that inside of you. And again, you're not full of yourself, you know, to be really and true, that comfortable with yourself, to know that it's an honor to be with you. Because I used to not feel that way. I didn't feel like it was an honor to be with me. I was just like, I was so much, I think it's even from just like high school and being bullied and made fun of, and all those things that I dealt with when I was younger. And just like, I couldn't connect. No one would like me. There was something wrong in me. So it was like, oh, maybe someone will like me. Okay. And that's when I would connect. When I truly felt in my heart and soul, someone's lucky to be with me, that's when I started to really change who I spent time with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know for me, when I really felt happy with my life, I remember, when I was in medical school, right when I met Tom around that time, I just decided I was going to just date. I didn't want to be in a relationship because I was too happy.
Yeah.
And I had my best friends. I had my nights when I'd go out. It was on my last month of medical school, and I was doing radiology where you could kind of fall asleep in the dark room. I'm not a radiologist, so it's okay, guys. So, but I was just really, really happy. And if I went out with someone, they often needed, because I'm a caretaker. I love taking care of people. And I just decided after the last relationship I had, I said, I don't want anyone who needs me to take care of them. I'm good at it. And every guy always said, you make me a better man. I'm like, that's great, because I'm still the same.
Yeah.
I don't want to be I want to know what you got. I want to be better too. Why are you better and I'm the same, right? And I went, you know what? I'm going to wait for that. So I made the list I had in my head, and it might sound like I'm full of myself, but I just said, I want someone who has what I have. I want someone who is passionate about what they do, because I dated guys who didn't really care. They hated their jobs and would complain. I love my job, and I want to be with someone who loves his job. I didn't care what he did, but just be passionate. So I wanted someone passionate, I wanted someone intelligent, someone who was funny. I had this, I wanted all those things. And I said, someone who's going to make me feel better, someone who's going to help me grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I met my husband, that all slid into place. I didn't even ask for that level of attractive. I just got a bonus from the universe. High five, universe. Thank you. He's like the most gorgeous guy I've ever seen. But it was just, I met him and I went, Carnegie Mellon computer science. Okay, he's brilliant. He made me laugh so hard, my face hurt. And then on top of that, he was so driven. He was an entrepreneur and had his own place in our 20s, which you were the only other person I knew in our 20s who had his own house, his own business. He was already, he'd been on MTV. Anyone who remembers TRL, Hottest Body at the Beach House? That shows how old we are, because there's no more TRL, right? But he had all these things happening in his life. Uh-oh. Hold on. It's because my battery, I think.
Try to plug back.
Oh, I don't know why it disappeared.
And now it's.
Yeah, I don't know where I went. Let me try just moving my camera around. All right.
There you are.
Ta-da!
There you are.
All right. You know what it is? My battery's starting to go, and I need my earphone. So I'm going to try again, and hopefully the battery doesn't die. But to say, he was so amazing. And what was cool to me, too, was he's the first man, only person who's ever called me on my shit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men were intimidated, too, by me. I'm an overachiever, and I talk a lot, and I'm very confident. And there were a lot of guys who just let me kind of lead in the relationships. And he was the first one who would tell me when I was full of it. And that's awesome, but not in a mean way.
Yeah.
But in a real way that helped me grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
What he taught me about myself is that I'm really great at helping other people, but I wouldn't ask for help when I needed it. And he was the one who said, can I get to feel as good as you feel when you help people? So he helped me grow. He's pushed me in my business. I thought I was happy to be medical director at a nonprofit. And he's the one who said, you have to leverage the internet. You have to speak on stage. There are people you need to reach. He pushed me to grow in ways that I never would have. And that is what makes it amazing, is that he's not only my best friend, but we help push each other into becoming more. And I understand what that means. He makes me a better woman. Thank God I waited for him. And I'll tell you one funny story that I always tell people who are struggling in relationships. This is the classic example of how when you stay in the bad relationship, it stops you from getting what you want. So, I picked my husband up at a bar, right? Mm-hmm. So I was on a date with somebody else. I was on a first date with a guy. We met at the bar. We met at a different bar, and then he gave me a ride to that one, right? And he started drinking, and he was a really mean drunk. It's a first date. And he was telling me that the women in my sorority were the ugly girls on campus, stuff like that, which is why would you ask me on a date and then say that, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? So he said, and then he goes, why do you tell so many stories? Who wants to hear your stories? And I went, well, if you want to date me, it comes with stories. This is how I talk, right? So I said, you know what, listen, the date's over. I find you rude. and I don't want to finish this date, but I tell you what, you were right about the place. The music here is great. So I'm going to stay and I'm going to dance, but this is over. I'm going to get a ride back to my car. There was before Uber. I'll find a ride back to my car. And he was like, he couldn't believe it. And I just walked away. And so many people I talked to said, I would have stayed on the date and then complained later. I would have called my girlfriends and said, what a bad date. But for me, I don't have time for that. If you're not good to me, it's over now. So you're rude, offensive, and it's done. And he said, you just can't take a joke. I said, I have a great sense of humor, but you are not funny, and I'm done. So I left him and I danced, and I forgot all about him, which is a funny thing, because the music was EDM, awesome house. I'm dancing, I'm having a great time. I'm thirsty. I go to the bar to grab some water, and my husband was sitting there. And well, soon to be. And I went, I know you. We went to the same college, but we didn't know each other. And he said, yeah, I went to your college. And we sat down and talked. And that moment, I don't remember anything else. I never went back to the dance floor. I don't even remember if I got the water. All I remember is the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen and laughing so hard my face hurt. And he took me to my car. 2 weeks later, we were dating. 6 months later, he was living with me. A year later, we were married. Now we got 2 kids, still happy. But my willingness and ability to walk away from something that was wrong is what led me to what was perfect. And at any moment, if I had just waited out that date, can you imagine? If I had just waited out that date, this whole future may never have happened.
Yep. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And both of us, you know, and you know, the same thing. And with David as well, I mean, I would not be as strong or feel as supported, I guess I should say, as supported as ever. You know, when I met David and things started to move forward, there was this level of support. And the same thing, I was like, I want someone, I know that at that point, I realized that I was able to give to other people, but I wanted to feel that as well. I wanted to get it back a little bit. And with David, he's just so sweet. He's got his big,
Oh, love David.
yeah, he's such a nice guy, and I just feel good, and I can tell him anything, and he's a good listener and a good talker. And me. But, you know, all those things, and to feel that kind of support is, you know, I can do anything, and, you know, I'm supported with it, whatever it is. And if it's good or bad or whatever, and that's what, you know, life is going to bring you all sorts of different things that you're going to have to deal with. Why not have a partner that helps you through it, as opposed to a partner that adds to the stress worse?
Yeah, I think that's the greatest lesson that being sick taught me. You know, living with chronic illness for 12 years of my life, I didn't know how much life I had to live, but I wasn't going to waste time with misery. I just wanted to be happy and to live with purpose. So even that guy at the bar, like, I mean, he lasted like 10 minutes, and I was like, I'm out. I think I left him with the check too. I was like, done, because I just want to be happy. So I'd rather be alone, hang out with friends, do things that I like, than waste time with someone who's going to hurt me. I dated someone who was a friend of yours, remember? And the first time we had a fight, he started trying to talk crap about me. Like, when I have a fight with someone, I want to come to a conclusion where we're both happy. That's how arguments should be. It's like, you hurt me in this way, you hurt me. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's do better. And for him, he immediately started thinking, well, you think you're so great, blah, blah, blah. And I went, ew, you know what? This isn't going to work out. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, you're trying to attack me as a person because you're angry at me. And that's not okay with me. And I ended it that moment, and I never gave him another shot, because it's like, if you think it's okay to tear me down because you're mad, I'm not the one for you.
Yeah.
And that's it. But I think that's also, I learned it from my family, but also because I never got yelled at. My dad never raised his voice my whole childhood. I cannot remember him ever yelling at me, right? So I grew up in a very calm, peaceful, loving home. But I also grew up knowing that I might not live that long. So it's like, but it's true for all of us. You don't know. You're going to get hit by a bus tomorrow or something. You don't know. Mm-hmm. So why waste a moment not being happy or being with someone who helps you feel more happy and supported?
And no one, and you know, I asked the group, what do you look for in a best friend? And that should be the same answer for your partner, whoever that. And, you know, someone had said, well, you know, you don't live with your best friend or whatever, but that still doesn't give an excuse. You would not be with that best friend if they were treating you badly. And that's what we don't know what could happen in life. So why not surround yourself? And, you know, I'm to the point now in my life as well, where I only surround myself with people that make me feel good, or that I feel good.
Same.
I should say. So, when I'm with them, I don't feel drained. Where before, there were people that I would spend time or get sucked into a conversation where it was like, oh, but so I really stay away from that now. And my circle has definitely gotten smaller, but it's so much more special because I do have such time, working, having my business, having a family, being married, all of those things. My time and my energy is so limited that I want to be able to put that for the things that I love and that I enjoy, that helps elevate everything around me, as opposed to being with people where you leave and you're like, all right.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. Yeah, my circle's very small. I mean, there's a lot of people who know me, want to talk to me or invite me places. But in terms of the people who really, they know of me, but the people who know me that I'm going to spend time with, it's got to be uplifting. I want to, because I'm very open. I want to share my soul with you. I want to have amazing clothes. I mean, when we have conversations, we're like deep conversations, right? I'm not good at the small talk. I don't want to waste my time in that. And I want to feel warm and happy afterwards. You know if someone's good for you by how you feel when you walk away. Do you feel full or do you feel like you need a nap, right? You just start to become more and more sensitive to that. But you first have to decide that that's what you deserve, that you are not, I always tell my patients, you're not a blood supply for vampires.
Yeah.
When you're surrounded by vampires, you're drained of blood. You feel like you're going to die. You are not born to be a blood supply. You deserve your blood. So if you feel drained, you got to walk away. Yeah.
And illnesses, physical ailments that go along with it too. I mean, I just remember being sick all the time and just, couldn't sleep. And I had my polycystic ovarian syndrome and my thyroid was failing and my left shoulder was going to need an operation and like my back would hurt all the time and all these things from just the stress of being drained, of having that energy drained from me, was just, and I could have never done what I do now in that past relationship because I wouldn't have had the energy to do it. Now it's like I get up every day, I'm excited, like it's a journey, it's an adventure, things are just, I'm just happy to have this opportunity to do what I do. Where before that wasn't so much the case. I'd be like, oh, what's going to happen today? And I would never know what's going to happen. I had no control. I felt like I had no control over it. At that point, I didn't think that I did, and I had to go through it. So for those of you who are questioning whether or not, it's time to make the change, it's time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's always the right moment to do better, whether it's for your health, exercise, nutrition, or for your relationships. It's always the right moment to start over. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about the stuff you did wrong 5 minutes ago. You just start now. You start choosing better because you deserve it. You're not a blood supply for other people. You deserve to find your own happiness. And if you do that, you'll meet other people who want you to be happy as well. And that's the best thing in the world. I love you, Steph. I'm going to lose my battery in like 3 seconds.
So I'm so glad we finally figured it out. For anyone who's watching this recorded, please make sure you ask us questions. I did see questions earlier that we didn't get to, but I'll go back and answer it. I'm sure Brooke will look at them as well. But, if you're taking anything out of this, please just keep in mind, this is the time. This is your opportunity to change. And, getting the right support system, getting the right people on your team, the people that love you and support you, they want you to be happy. The people that love you and want the best for you want you to be happy. So stop living small, make this your best life. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you again soon. So keep chatting and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Love you too.